We have an alien problem in the NFL. If you don't have Josh Allen, Lamar, or Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, if you have a Brock Purdy or a Jalen Hurts, they are never going to get the respect that they deserve because they don't have the physical capabilities that these aliens like Mahomes, Lamar, and Josh Allen possess. And these quarterbacks have altered how fans perceive what a good quarterback is. Instead of judging quarterbacks based off how productive they are, how consistent they are in the big games, they get judged based on their physical capabilities. Brock Purdy, good example, recently got paid. And despite him being good enough to warrant getting paid what he gets, fans think that he's overrated. He's a system quarterback. He's elevated by the talent around him because he can't do the same things that Lamar, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes can. And if you don't have one of these alien quarterbacks, you always are going to be viewed as a system guy. And if you are somebody that has the physical capabilities that some of these alien QBs possess, even if you aren't the most productive, the media is always going to find a way to make excuses for you, just like they do with Justin Herbert. Look, I'm a huge Justin Herbert fan. Nobody defends Justin Herbert more than I do, but he was god-awful in the playoffs this past season. And there's no excuses about it. You can't blame the receivers. You can't blame the offensive line play. A good amount of the blame has to go on Herbert. But why he gets a pass and why guys like Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts are held to such a higher standard is because if Justin Herbert can put it all together with the arm strength he has, the athleticism that he possesses, he can be in that alien conversation along with Lamar, Allen, and Mahomes. And with these alien quarterbacks taking over the NFL, fans believe if their team doesn't have one, they have no shot at winning, and that just isn't true. And you see, ever since Lamar and Patrick Mahomes have entered the NFL, they have destroyed the perception of what a good quarterback in this league looks like. You don't have to run 4-2, being able to throw 80 yards downfield to be a good quarterback in this league. A good quarterback isn't always the most physically imposing. They aren't the greatest athlete on the field in most cases. Drew Brees is a consensus top 10 quarterback all time. He didn't have the strongest arm in the world. He wasn't the greatest athlete, but what made him so great was that he was extremely accurate and he was able to excel in the things that can't always be measured by highlights. When you look at a guy in Ben Roethlisberger, although he was really physically imposing, he was a pretty good athlete, I don't think he was better than Drew Brees. You see, you don't have to be an alien to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. All you have to be able to do is to have a skill set that equates to being productive in big games like we've seen Brock Purdy do. Brock Purdy already has more wins than Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, but he doesn't get that respect that some of his contemporaries do because he was Mr. Irrelevant, and people equate where you're drafted to how good you actually are, even though there's been plenty of guys who have been underdrafted in the past, have gone on to have Hall of Fame careers, and with him not having a bazooka for an arm, not running like Lamar, he gets unjustified hate because that's the new standard, the new precedent that these quarterbacks have set in the league. And even though Lamar, to me, is the most talented quarterback to ever put his hands on the football, we got to hold him accountable for some of the Ravens' shortcomings in the postseason. You see, just because you are the most talented doesn't mean that you always are going to be the most productive. And that's what we confuse. It goes back to the whole Super Bowl argument that I made a few weeks ago. Winning a Super Bowl doesn't define the entirety of a quarterback's career. Rather, you win one or not, there are other factors that goes into judging how good an overall quarterback is. And it goes to their talent level as well. You can be a talented quarterback despite not having a lot of physical gifts. It's the intangibles that matter. And if you want to call Brock Purdy a system quarterback, you got to say that Patrick Mahomes is a system quarterback. If Mahomes would have got drafted by the Cleveland Browns and went to a shitty situation, who knows if his career would have turned out the same way as it has with him playing for arguably the greatest offensive mind in the history of this game, a top 3 head coach all time. The situation that you go to matters. There's not a single quarterback in the Hall of Fame that hasn't played with Hall of Fame level players. Tom Brady played with Randy Moss, one of the greatest receivers all time. John Elway played with several Hall of Famers. Troy Aikman played with several Hall of Famers. When you think of your top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL right now, do you know what all of those guys are going to have in common? They have great teams around them. They're getting great coaching. Great players can't be great players without having great players around them. I know that might be a little bit of a tongue twister to you guys, but it's the truth. Just like how a lot of good coaches can win despite not having great quarterback play, but great quarterbacks can't win championships unless they have great coaching. It goes hand in hand. It's a tandem. You got to have one to have the other. And Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, as good as what these guys are from a talent level, they wouldn't be as good as what they are if they didn't land in their current situations. Not every single quarterback can succeed on every franchise, contrary to popular belief. But with this perception that we have about these aliens at quarterback, fans feel if their team doesn't have one, they have no shot to win, and that simply is not true. Because if that was the case, Lamar would have already had a championship by now. Same thing with Josh Allen. Yet, one guy has only been able to stop Mahomes from making it out of the AFC post Tom Brady, and that's been that man, the Patrick Mahomes stopper. You see, Joe Burrow isn't the most physically gifted quarterback, but he's insanely accurate, and he's always dependable in big games. That's what separates him from the other quarterbacks that are considered to be top 5 in this league, even though he's not as talented physically as what those guys are. He has a skill set that helps him win, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. You don't need to have these freakish aliens at quarterback to win. You just need a quarterback that can come through in high-pressure situations. That's what Joe Burrow does. Same thing with Eli Manning. It's funny how so many quarterbacks struggled to beat Tom Brady, but yet Eli Manning, who on most occasions wasn't even a top 10 quarterback, was able to beat him twice in the Super Bowl. And that just goes to show that it's not always about how fast you are, how far you can throw a football. There are other intangibles that you look for in defining what a franchise quarterback is. And just because you don't have one of these freaks as your signal caller doesn't mean that your team doesn't have a shot to win without one.